Hello, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We're a radio, TV, and podcast station. We are the #1 internet singles talk network. We do have a live streaming radio station that's on 24/7, and we play these shows all the time. So we hope that you listen. But we do these live broadcasts right here on Facebook and on YouTube. And this show here is called The Boy and Girl Thing. And I am one of the hosts. My name is Cece Schatz, and I have my sidekicks here with me.
And I'm Kathy Leah. Hello.
And I'm Derek Bernard.
And every week I tell them, just say your name. Just go right out there with it. And every week they're the same. It's like,
Yeah.
Well, I normally wait for Kathy to go. I'm being a good gentleman, so.
I know. Mark is with us. Hey, Mark. Nice to see you here. Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love it when people are following us and they listen to, they come and join the show and talk on the show. Now you do have a way of contacting us and communicating with us. You can just make a comment on Facebook or YouTube, and we see it right here on the station, and we'll bring your information up and we'll chat with you, and we love doing that. It really makes us happy. So tonight we're going to talk about something that's kind of serious. We're going to talk about mental health for men, the social connectedness, men's diverse patterns of practice, masculinity, and social connectedness and of mental health. And I came across this article and I thought it was very intriguing. And we're always trying to approach the difference between men and women, right? And so within the article, we have another comment here. Let's say, hey, Kathy, Cece, Kathy, doing great. Oh, good. It's nice to know that. He is directing it to us, Derek. Okay.
Oh, the woman, yeah. Talk to you, Derek.
That's all right. I totally understand.
As he said, peace, I'm out. Uh-oh, now we got it. We got
Leave it already?
But anyhow, so this show is really based on the differences between men and women, how we look at things, how things are different. And so that's kind of what the makeup of our show is. And so, and of course, we team up on Derek. So Kathy and I, we team up, we try to get our points across. But tonight we're going to talk about mental health for men. And I came across this article that talks about the differences between men and women with regards to connecting, right? And we're connecting in a social environment where women can easily have like girlfriends and we connect and we'll go into a social environment and we really don't think not much of it too much. I mean, women just tend to do that, but men, not so. So Kathy, you read the article. Oh, look at that. He's giving you some love here. Love you too, Derek.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Showing you a little love. Yeah, we love you too, Derek. We're just giving you a hard time. So Kathy, what was your take on the article about men in a social environment?
Well, it was a really long article, and it talked about, I told you that earlier, it talked about the different types of social interaction and how men will not talk about their emotions a lot of times, and it depends on who they're talking to. They won't talk to each other, man on man about, problems that they have and their emotional things, but they will talk to women. Some men won't talk to anybody. And I kind of think that it's all has to do, in my opinion, has to do with their upbringing and their culture and that's about it, just that. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that right now.
Yeah, and you're right. That's what the article did say. But it went on further, and it said that what they're finding, though, is that men, as they get older, they have created such a non-social environment that they're lonely, and they become lonely, and then they try to reach out with their family and try to share more things with them, because they just don't have anybody to talk to, and they realize that when a man's in an environment where he's working and he's busy doing this and doing that, he's active, and so he doesn't think too much about the social connecting, right? But then as he gets older and he's not active anymore, and he's just sitting and watching TV, and there's no connecting anywhere, and then he becomes very, very lonely, very isolated. And so I thought that was interesting.
And that's the type of person that I would call a homebody, and they just kind of get into their own little world.
Well, that is.
We don't know, that's that it's a psychological problem, or if that's the way they prefer things, or.
I would say in this country, probably it's social conditioning. And it's what is expected, because where I come from in Trinidad and Tobago, for instance, it's not like that at all. Men tend to remain connected. Look, up to even now, I have a WhatsApp group of all my friends who I went to school with in high school and so on, and we chat with each other every day. And if I was living in Trinidad, for instance, we would be meeting and hanging out with each other.
So what is your conversation when you're meeting with each other? Do you talk about, what's on your mind, emotional things, or do you talk about,
Men hardly ever discuss too many emotional things. I mean, I've always had, for instance, a girlfriend or two whom I would talk to about more emotional things. I have one very good friend. We have been friends since we have been about 18 and 19 years old. We didn't go to school together, but we lived in the same area and developed a very good friendship. And we communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. Right, I have another friend who I communicate with regularly, and they both live here in the US. And sometimes we can get into a little bit of emotional things, because that's our very long-standing close friendship. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, especially in a group setting, men don't really get into emotional stuff too much. I mean, you may shoot a question out there pertaining to some problem you may have, or some angle you want to find, or some opinion you want to have. But you're not going to bare your emotional soul in a group setting. Mm-hmm. It doesn't normally happen.
Right.
In Trinidad, for instance, men would meet after work and have a chat, or go out and lime, as we call it. When we hang out, we say we are liming, right? So we have a different attitude to social connectedness than probably men here in the US have. Because here in the US, what I've observed excuse me, is that people are mainly concerned with their own little nuclear family, and they don't share much outside of that little nuclear family. People live next door to each other, or in the same apartment complex, and don't know their neighbor's name, or don't interact with their neighbor and so on. That doesn't happen where I come from.
That's just a matter of who your neighbors are, and
I'm speaking generally.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not being specific here. I'm speaking generally.
Yeah.
So here we have, to me, what I would call more of a social isolationist tendency, the individual tendency. There is something called, I forgot the term, rugged individuality is what some people refer to it as. That doesn't necessarily exist in other cultures. Mm-hmm. So Of course, there are social groups as well. I know when I was coming up, and that's back home, I used to be a member of the Lions Club, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are Rotary, some are Kiwanis, etc. And there used to be men's clubs that men would go and meet and have a meeting twice a week. And you share and you talk about things you would want to do socially and so on. And it used to be quite popular. And then I remember the years when the Lions Club decided to change the rules and let in women, and we were not very happy about that.
It ruined everything, didn't it?
It did, because men need to have space.
I agree with you.
Just as women need to have space, men also need to have space.
Yeah.
And when you try everything, all equality, and I'm all for equality, but you could have had lionesses clubs. You didn't have to.
That's a different topic.
It's the same topic because it speaks about social connectedness. And a Lions Club was one of the areas where you could have had social connectedness with your male colleagues, right? Without the interference of women.
Good point, Mark.
What the article was saying was that because men don't connect emotionally, socially, okay, they don't have that socially connectedness, then what's happening is as they get older, they're finding that they fall into isolation and depression, where women, because they connect socially and they are very, emotional and they do share, they're not feeling like that. And so the mental health for men, as they become older, starts to become difficult because they are so isolated. They depended then upon their families, or they're put into a home or whatever where they're not used to being social.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. Did the article touch on the fact that men's needs in terms of social connectedness might be different from women's needs?
Isn't that what we're talking about?
Well, I mean,
that's exactly what the whole article is.
You just mentioned that the article spoke about women's emotional connectedness and so on. But I think that men's emotional needs and connectedness are a little different from women's.
Mark, that's what
I think Mark is right here. He said, no, we have to be strong for our families. So most men disconnect.
And they said that.
Yeah.
Well, that's one aspect of it. But I mean, as I said, the society where I came from, we are strong for our families, but we also maintain our social connections.
Well, you have your different types. You got the men that like to get together and they like to do the macho thing. They like to be the manly man. And then you got the guy that, okay. So when, he gets with his wife or girlfriend or family or whatever, and then it's a different man. He's different than when he's with the guys.
Of course. We're all different. When the women are with women, they're different from when they're with the husbands as well. People, look.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's
okay. Here's why I thought this was important.
Listen, I'm not making any value judgments.
No, okay. This is why I thought this was important, was because a lot of us are getting into the last quarter of our lives, right? And so we can't think we're going to live like we did in our 20s or 30s or maybe 40s. We have to start thinking that if we men, especially in this particular article, if men continue to isolate themselves and not have that social connectedness without giving a part of themselves, their emotional part, they're going to find themselves alone and depressed and living a life that they may not be as happy. And so the article was brought to my attention that maybe we should create some awareness that now is the time for us to shift. And, I had a wonderful guy on today talking about pivoting. Adam Markle, and talking about, resilience and changing the little changes that you make in your life that creates a pivot. And I started putting all this together, and I actually put the shows all together so they would kind of go within helping each other. And I thought this particular article would be something that I think we should embrace, that, sure, maybe you guys are all muscle and you don't think you need, and you hang with your buds and you guys share a beer and you talk about women. That's not being emotional connecting in a social environment. It's allowing yourselves to be a little raw, and be real, and being able to be out there with someone else and share with someone else, and giving some of yourself. I mean, I think women have done this all our lives. We give and give and give to our families. So it's an easy thing for us to do, to give to other women, and make friendships and things. Men, not so much.
Well, yeah, because it's from my point of view, sharing feelings would be something that's not masculine, or it's a sign of weakness. If you, with your guy friends, if you do that anyway, because they'll be like, they'll be laughing at you.
It's not really a sign of weakness, or it's not masculine. As I said, men have different needs from women.
Okay, I'm talking about man on man. If you talk about those things, I'm talking about man on man. If you talk about those things with your man,
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You may have a personal friend, a very close friend, that you might open up to if things really get hairy. And yes, understand the mental health point. But part of the whole thing, women tend to feel that when men get together, all the men do is to talk about women and so on. Not necessary.
No, I know. I know that. But we're talking about social connectedness. So not.
Yes, and you do have emotional connectedness.
Sharing with one friend. We're talking about socially.
Well, you know what? That is something that you wouldn't find men doing.
No, absolutely not. And that's why I brought it up, because I think when they get older, when they go and they find themselves isolated, when they have nobody, because they distance themselves without giving a piece of themselves away, they kept everything emotionally within, then they're alone, and they have nobody to connect with them. And so what this article was saying is that it's important that we need to create a shift for mental health reasons for men. Men need to realize that it's okay to share with someone else. And you're right about the woman aspect. The man will share with a woman. Like I have my divorce support group, very active men in my group. They share a lot in the group, and do it on the basis of not only development and health from themselves, but they feel that what they share is going to help others. And so that's a very giving aspect of it. But create that on a social aspect for men, it's very hard. And like we've got
it's very hard. It's not
shop, and he's trying to do a little bit more like that, because men do connect that way. So, it was just building a social connectiveness to better men.
I don't think we should expect men to be like women.
We're not expecting.
I think that men have their own way of doing their social connections and their emotional connections. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think that men have their way of doing that. Now, there are some men who are isolated because all they concentrated on was their families and so on, and they haven't learned to share anything on a social level. They haven't learned to share themselves even. They haven't learned to even try to serve a higher purpose outside of the family and so on. And yes, they can get pretty lonely when you get down to it. But men really don't share too much emotionally, especially in a group. We tend to speak about other things. No, what I mean is, Mark, I can agree that a little bit, but men also share. I mean, from my personal experience, I'm talking. There are a couple of friends that I share things with, and I think that's essential because, you know, I read that book, Mark. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I guess,
I live in a over 55 community, very active community here. And what I have noticed is that men are very socially connected here. And although I don't hear their conversations and things like that, but I'm seeing that they are very socially connected.
Cece, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but Cece, you see the ones that are socially connected, the ones that are staying at home, you know, you don't see them. You don't know if they are.
No, and that was the point of this article, I think, is that if men can become socially connected, they really have a lot more joy in their life. They don't have that isolation feeling. They don't have that loneliness. The ones that don't connect socially, the ones that think that they don't have to talk to other people because, you know, they just solve their problems of the world on their own shoulders. They isolate themselves. They're going to be very lonely when they get older.
No, do you think that's a minority? Do you think that's a minority or majority of men?
No, it's
not what the article said. It was just talking about mental health.
I know, but I'm asking.
They only studied like what, seven men.
7 men.
Yeah. So, you know, the answers that they got from their different lifestyles, you know, that was what their article was basing it on.
Yeah.
I see. Well, 7 men. I can't draw conclusions from that. I don't know
how many. I mean, I don't remember. But here's the thing. I know from my own father, you know, my father was not a real social. I mean, he did racing, so he had buddies that he did that stuff with. He had buddies that he did things with, but he wasn't actually socially connected. You know, he did activities, and then when the activities were done, they were done. He didn't have that social connective, like you were saying, where people talk every day and you do that. That's social connectiveness, you know. It's not just going to a sports event and everybody goes home and you don't see each other till the next season, you know. So, and I know my father now, even though I don't think he's depressed, but, you know, maybe somewhat, but he's very isolated, and all he has now is me and the family to talk to, and he doesn't have any.
He doesn't have any friends.
The bottom line was that after all is said and done, is that men actually do need a woman to take care of that part, that emotional part of their life, that where they can express those types of feelings, because they're, in the long run, men the men friends don't satisfy that part.
Well, as I said, I always have a woman friend who is close, who I can share certain things with, that I may not always share with my men friends, especially in a group. You know, because if I want that kind of thing, I prefer to speak with a woman.
Okay, so why? Because
women are more. There is something in a woman called a mother instinct that makes her understand certain situations and things from a different perspective than you as a man would understand it. And, you know, and that's why I reach out to my female friends for certain types of things, because, you know, there are some things that I may not I may understand it from a man's point of view, right? But I want a woman's opinion. Do you think I'm correct here? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that I'm just being an ass? You know, what this situation presented itself. Help me out here. And that's...
do you think women are less judgmental?
Not necessarily. Some women are deathly judgmental. And some women jump to some conclusions that are out of this world.
Well, when it comes to discussing a serious problem that somebody wants to, you know, they really need help with, women will sit there and they'll listen, and a lot more than a man, because a woman is more empathetic and they can relate, because we've had to deal with a lot of things in our life. I think more than a man, we've had to use the strength of other women in where we couldn't use the strength of a man.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there are some things that women prefer to speak to men about than to just speak to their girlfriends about. So I think that look, the way I look at it, there's a reason why there's a man or female and male. I don't even want to say a man and woman entity in the world, but a female personage and a male personage. Because we have different attitudes about different, or probably about the same subject. And you want, and you correct, Mark, you want a woman's perspective on things sometimes. Because a man, a man is probably going to have the same perspective as you have most of the time, right? Now, in our group that we chat with, there is one of us who turned out to be a pastor. And he's the one who, if anyone has anything really emotional or some problem, that's the one that they tend to confide in, because he's doing it from a pastoral perspective, right? Which is different from us guys who are just out there. So that's the one people tend to look for certain types of advice and so on from.
Derek, what I was thinking is that men tend to be fixers. So if you tell them you've got a problem, especially women, if we say we've got a problem, they want to fix it.
Yes, some men.
Yeah. This is what you need to do, ABC, but we don't really want the answer. We want the shoulder to lean on. We want the support.
And
you want the support.
That's what it's all about, is the support. And it's do men have support from their men friends?
Yeah. So I think that if you tell a guy, like if you're telling a guy an issue or whatever, he's going to want to fix it, not necessarily want to give you a pat on the back or say,
if it's a man telling a man about a problem, he's not going to try to fix his friend's problem.
He's not going to give you advice?
He's going to give some advice probably, but he's not going to try to fix it in the same way that he'll try to fix a female's friend problem. Let me put it that way, right? And like me, I guess.
I think you're trying to put this on the floor now.
I'll tell you this, that when my friends come to me with a problem or situation, right? We'll have a serious discussion. And I normally try to let people come to their own conclusions, probably just by putting in a word here or look at it this way or that way. But you have to come to your own conclusions and fix your own problem. I can't fix it for you. You have to want to fix it in the first place.
It's true. Very true.
And then you come, and then we'll have a discussion. You come to your own conclusion, and it comes in one ear, it's processed here, and it's going out the other ear. So, but not everybody can do that. Some men feel they have to get in there and get involved and try and fix what's wrong, because after all, she came to me, and I am the fixer. And you're correct. Some men have that attitude, but not all.
I'm going to be the Superman,
Yes, I am the savior.
Yeah, I'm going to save it. Yeah.
You can't even save yourself.
Yeah, well, if you don't save up the oxygen mask, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you save somebody else. But this article, getting back to the article itself, it's I was. When I read it and everything, and it was long, and I would lose my train of thought sometimes because it had a lot of, information in it where they got the studies from, and so there was just a lot of stuff in it. I could never be a doctor because I had to read it a couple times to get through it. But here's the thing: is that what really got me was that how lonely men were isolating themselves. And I have seen in dating men like that, where, well, it's my way or the highway, or I'll just be by myself, And I'm just like, that's a very lonely place to be,
Well, I think that it is a lonely place, and it's not a very wise place. And I think that if you come to this stage in your life and you have not really learned to share or to accommodate other people and so on.
But are they happy when they're like are they happy when they've isolated themselves like that?
I don't know, because none of my friends are really like that. Who are isolationists. We tend to be social animals. And
well, that's what the article was about, that they're not social animals. They're not.
That's strange. I have not encountered men with that perspective.
I've dated a couple of those men. I dated a couple of those men.
You dated a couple of them, and I bet it was difficult.
A couple of those men where it's my way or the highway, or I'll just be by myself. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no, like you said, there's no compromise. There's no meeting in the middle of the road. There's, no nothing about that.
Well, that's too bad.
You know what? And I've had men say that about women, that's why they go their pets. And this is what Mark was saying. No, they adopted cats.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I have met, a couple of women that tend to be that kind of bossy, and they want to, and it didn't last very long with me.
I agree. They're like that too.
Yeah, I'm gone. Once I see that kind of attitude coming out, I'm gone. Hasta la vista, baby. And I ain't coming back.
Because oh, what's you say? Easy question mark. Well, I tell you what, I have roosters in my.
Really?
He's an adopted cat. It's like, well, you have a pussy around somewhere, but I collect roosters, and I think every woman needs to cock around somewhere.
Well, actually, I have a cat.
There you go.
And I was going to actually, I don't know where he is, but I was going to bring him and let him sit here with me tonight. But the thing is that cat adopted me. He actually adopted my brother and myself when we moved to St. Petersburg. Yeah, he came into the house one day. He was in a group of cats. We fed him, and we have had him now for a long, long time. Well, he have had us around the place.
You stole somebody's cat.
I don't.
You open your door and said, here. I used to do that.
He was walking with a group of cats, and he just came to us, and that was it. And he's the sweetest cat ever.
But I think it is true. The isolation, a lot of times they'll have pets, things like that, because they don't, mental health. And that's what we were talking about, is men's mental health, and creating so you're not so depressed or things like that. And so if they are going to isolate and be by themselves to not have the depression or whatever, they do have to have something to give their love to, their life to.
Well, of course.
So they have to be willing to open up somehow, somewhere, to someone or to a group.
Something.
Yeah. And whether it's on social media, or they seek professional help, or if they join groups, it's for their mental health, and to I don't know, people need people.
Yeah, of course people need people. I think though that I don't know why, as I said, I have not really met. I feel if I meet someone that is so isolationist, to me, I am identifying someone with a mental problem to begin with. And I don't know if which is the chicken and which is the egg. And, I really don't, because if you don't have any connections, any social interactions and connections, then it tells me that something is wrong. So.
Right. And later in life, maybe dementia setting in, maybe there's something like that.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, as I said, I haven't met many men like that. I mean, I have a friend who is about 70. He's probably about 77, 78 now. And, we talk every now and again. Sometimes he'll call me, sometimes I'll call him, I go look for him, he come look for me. I mean, he's, you know, we once had an older friend here. This man was in his 90s, and he would still come around and hang out and have a good time. You know, I have not really met any men who are really isolationists. I guess, as I said, it's because of the culture we came from. Mm-hmm. You know, that is just not part of our culture.
So I guess we're all going to move to Trinidad. All the men, older men, are going to have to move to Trinidad so they can.
Hey, they can go and take a good life. You know, a lot of them, you know, the rum shop is a gathering point, so they meet and drink and talk and laugh and.
Well, Trinidad's a beautiful place. You're going to have to go someplace. Might as well go to Trinidad.
You should check it out. It's a nice place.
Go down to the beach area and look at all the men out there hanging out with each other. You know, you can't find guys that come and talk to the women. They just hang around with each other.
And that is something I found, that men tend to hang out with each other. It takes a brave soul to step out and go and approach a group of women. You know, because some women, sometimes there's one woman in the group who spoils it, honestly. You know, who might be snobbish or what is he doing there? She might just look at it and, you know, and men, look, as we discussed before, men have rejection problems just like women.
Yeah.
Right? You know, just as you wouldn't find a woman leaving their group and going into a group of men.
Mark's wife, which was one of my best friends, passed away. His wife passed away, Tammy, and he talked to his pastor after.
Mark, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm really
So you know, it's very important that, and I think, you know, Mark, I think you did the right thing by really connecting with someone and sharing. Those things. That was the whole reason that I thought that this would be important, is because I was thinking of men's mental health, and that, you know, to connect with someone, to don't spend your life in isolation thinking that you can't talk to somebody about something, that you'll be judged, because that truly is not the case. I mean, there's somebody out there, whether it be a woman or a man or somebody out there that is caring enough that will sit and listen to whatever it is that you're experiencing and connect with you. And connect with you on a social level so that you can have friendship and kinship and that type of stuff, because that's important as we get older, you know.
And I would say too, you know, sorry, go ahead, Kathy, I'm sorry.
Okay. It's also important that when a loved one passes away, that you do have people that you can freely, you know, express what you feel without them thinking that you're looking for pity, or you just want to talk about the person that you loved. And speaking from my own experience, but you know, it helps a whole lot to be able to, you know, talk about your loved one, you know, and have somebody listen and understand, you know, that you miss them and that you had good times. And that was a part of your life. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll tell you, and if you're listening out there and someone approaches you, be accommodating, be welcoming, be a listening ear to someone who might just need to speak with someone is very important.
And it's like when you're looking for anybody to feel sorry for you or anything.
No, it's not a matter of sorrow. It's a matter of being able to have some empathy, you know, and that's important. I'll tell you something. I have a very good friend. I mean, you know, as I said, we knew each other since we were 18 and 19 years old. 4 years ago. Well, Mark, I know you're still in a crucial period, because my dad died when I was 7 years old, right? I never knew that my good friend's father died when he was 8 years old. It turns out that he's a year older than I am. And so our fathers died the same year. And it was just a few years ago, we were speaking and we realized this. And we both realized that we were still, as big adult men, still grieving for our fathers. And we were able to talk about that and share that with each other because that was something very deep within us. And it helped. So
that's right. We have people to talk.
Here's my point. It took years and years to be able to connect and talk like that. And that's something that men should know, that it's okay.
Well, yeah, we knew it. Look, we knew it was okay. It's just that because we realized that we were both going through a little difficult period, right, that we were able to open up because there was never a need for it before, right? But when we realized that we were going through this difficult period, for some reason or the other, something deep inside is bugging you, and you start talking and trying to, where is this coming from? Then we started to talk about our childhoods and our experience and the fact, and then realize then, I never realized it before, that I was still in grief, right? But the important thing is that as men, we were able to open up and speak about this. So it's not that men don't share. I think men share certain parts of themselves when it becomes really necessary or when there's an opening for that kind of sharing.
Yes, exactly. That's what it was saying too, that they have to see that opening where that they're thinking, oh wow, this guy's listening to me. I can talk about this stuff. And
we can talk about this.
I mean, he's not going to shoot me away or anything.
We understand each other from that perspective.
That will do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I was speaking to one of my friends who didn't have that experience, they probably would not have understand where that deep-seated grief was coming from or why. It's similar, like Mark, he lost his wife 4 years ago. He needs to share with men who have suffered that kind of loss. And I don't know how long, Mark, I don't know how long you were married, but if it has been some years, I know that grief will be very strong within you. So, it's yes, when you're talking about your conversation with your friend, he said, yes, but you knew each other and you were on even ground. But a man is not going to talk to another man about everyday life. Not always. There has to be an open.
So here's the thing. I really don't think, my opinion is, I really don't think it's about gender, about, men versus women who's going to talk. It's over. You're going to talk, number one, when the time is right for you to talk.
Yeah.
And when you feel secure enough to talk. Because if whoever you're talking to, whether it be man or woman, you have to feel secure that you can share your deepest hurtfulness or your deepest worries or whatever it might be, something that's deep within yourself that you're going to share, an emotional side of you. You've got to be able to have someone that that you could trust to share this with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's very important. I think our mental health, it's very, very prevalent right now with all that we're going through. But I don't think we talk enough about men's mental health. And I hope that this will be a door opening, that maybe we can get more shows in, have professionals in to talk a little bit more about that, because I think that that's an important issue. And so, I want to thank you both for being on the show tonight, talking about a subject that's really pretty heavy. And Mark, I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight and sharing some of the things that you were sharing. We're really appreciative of you following us and joining in on the conversation, because it really does help us to be able to connect with our audience and understand what they're all going through. So, but we're going to have to close the show. And any last words or anything you guys want to?
Last words?
Your last words. So, I love you, 3.
Love you too, Mark.
See, he didn't leave you out this time, Derek. So no hurtful feelings there. So
absolutely not.
Yeah. So, but any last comments or anything you want to say real quick?
Well, what I would say is really to anyone is to live in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But don't just live in a moment for yourself. Live in the moment for those who are around you, who might need a listening ear, might need a shoulder to lean on, or who might be reaching out to you in ways, and if you look close enough, you realize that this person, or listen close enough, that this person really is reaching out to me. This person wants to say something. And if you give them the opening and you give them the opportunity to share, they will share, because many of us need to share, need to express how we really feel, and to discuss and understand there are other people who might be feeling the same way or going through the same things. But we have to be able to share with each other. And that is so important.
That's good, Derek.
Kathy, anything else you want to?
No, I thought that Derek just said that really.
Yeah, very good. The other thing I would add is that I think social connectedness is extremely important. And I don't think we all, look at it as being as important as we do today. When we were all in isolation for the coronavirus, we realized the importance of other people in our lives. We connecting with them on a daily basis, connecting, we missed a lot of things that we took for granted. And so I think for all of our mental health, I think connecting with other people is vital within our society. And connecting with other people makes us a better person. And
Absolutely.
so it's really important.
So thank you, Cece, for being on.
And like Mark said, to you, Derek. Anytime you want to talk, Derek, he's there.
That was so
Mark, I thank you. And same here, buddy. Anytime you want to talk, I'm available to you as well. So thank you for that.
That's very sweet. All right, guys, we're going to have to go. This is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And of course, you guys are listening to the Boy and Girl Thing with our host here tonight. I'm Cece Schatz. We have with us.
I'm Derek Bernard.
Kathy Lamb. So we were here with you tonight. I hope you'll join us next time around. We really do love being with you all. So same time, same place. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. See you next week.